So to start off, the objective of this talk is basically to create awareness among the Indian diaspora and the Indian citizens all over the world about why October 22nd is a Black Day. Frankly speaking, when I was asked to moderate, I was not aware about why this is called a Black Day. And it was quite surprising to me about this day in October 22nd. To start off, the objective of this talk is basically to create awareness among the Indian diaspora and the Indian. I'm getting a feedback. Somebody's about why October 22nd is a Black. Okay, I was getting a feedback of my own voice, so I'm sorry for that. So basically, this date in 1947, October 22nd, created a lot of changes, which affected the state of Kashmir and India, and it is still affecting us today. So to start this webinar, I would go ahead and say that it is, I have, sorry, my mistake. So we have an esteemed panel who will share their thoughts on this subject and enlighten us, all of us, on the background, issues, challenges, impact, and the way forward, as today's Kashmir is absolutely free from the clutches of 370 and 35A, which was done last year. And we hear every day through the news channels how Kashmir is moving forward towards prosperity and how the future looks good. But there are painful years which are coming to an end, and Kashmir will be prospering and going forward. I'm delighted to introduce this panel once again. So starting again, Khun Sushil Dhanuka, a member of the Indian community living in Thailand for many years. He's an active member of the Indian diaspora and a respected name in many social and professional bodies and commands great respect in the society. Welcome, Dhanuka ji. Next is Khun Narula, a very senior and renowned member of the Thai Indian community, who is well known as a very powerful speaker and trainer with his service with a smile mindset to various social and professional organizations and contributing to communities at large. Narula ji, welcome.
Thank you, Ji.
Khun Nikon Sajdev, a bright, active and dynamic youth of the Indian diaspora who is actively involved with sports and other fields of significant interest to the Thai Indian community, where he utilizes his great organizational skills for the benefit of the community in Bangkok and is always ready to contribute. Welcome, Khun Nikon.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Khun Bakshi from GKPD Thailand, a powerful leadership trainer and coach, has been active in many organizations and is active as always. Welcome, Khun DK. Khun Nirja Sadhu, GKPD International Coordinator from New Jersey, USA, a dynamic, smart activist of GKPD who has contributed globally on this important subject. She is somebody who's gone through it personally and will be sharing her insights to us of the Indian diaspora in Bangkok, Thailand. Ladies and gentlemen, while I would ask each of the panelists to share their views, in the meanwhile, I ask the attendees to, if they have any questions, they can put it on the chat and through the QA panel on the webinar. And I will take this up once we are done with all the panelists speaking. So let me start the discussions with DK Bakshi Saab. Since you belong to Kashmir, I would like you to share with us the history and significance of Black Day 22nd, October 1947. Many people like me are unaware as to why October 22nd is a Black Day in our history. Could you also shed some light on how the princely state acceded to become part of India? It would be great to get a good amount of details on this important subject. Bakshi Saab, over to you.
First of all, Namaskar, Savadikap, Satsaryakar. I have a personal gratitude for Khun Jai Saraf, the moderator who worked really very hard last couple of days for this webinar. I would request everybody to go on mute because that will then not disturb things. So Acharyan, Khun Nikon, Khun Sushil, please go on mute. I also welcome Indian diaspora. I have been part of this last 16, 17 years in Thailand, as well as my GKPD, Kashmiri community around the world, who some of them have joined this webinar. For me personally, being a Kashmiri Pandit, it's a very painful and hurting all the time, as our community has gone through major challenges, issues, much before partition, and finally in 1947. We are the victims of genocide. We are the victims of genocide. Now let me go quickly to the blackest day of Indian history, 22nd October 1947. And I will share with you the actual story, and it's my family story, and which will talk about what all happened in Kashmir. After independence of India, Kashmir was still ruled by Maharaja Hari Singh, great man, as he signed a pact with both India as well as Pakistan, a standstill agreement on 12th August 1947. India, as it is, abided by the agreement, but Pakistan did not. A plan named Operation Gulmarg, under the leadership of Jinnah, and a person, Army Major General Akbar Khan, was given this task of Operation Gulmarg, wherein tribals named as Kabalis entered Kashmir with guns and weapons through Muzaffarabad and many other areas. Kabalis reached the first place called Baramulla. The message was given that under the leadership of Maharaja Hari Singh Ji, the Muslim community was being killed, hence they will have some support from them. Kabalis smashed the Mohra power house, only 3 megawatt that time, which was supplying electricity to Baramulla and Srinagar, and entire thing was dark. And the Kabalis started naked dance of death and destruction all around Baramulla. The Deputy Commissioner DC for Baramulla surrendered, and Maharaja's flag was replaced by Pakistani flag. Hunting of 6 minority communities and, of course, large Kashmiri Pandits was their target: to kill, to rape, and to loot. Thousands of people were killed, and this mayhem continued for days. It is said that the population of Baramulla was 14,000 and only 2,000 survived. Others were killed or they migrated somewhere else. So when I am sharing this story, my father used to share this factual story to us as children, and his classmate, Professor Kashinath Pandita, a well-known scholar of Kashmir, who was his classmate and a cousin brother, who was a few days back on a webinar, he is a real eyewitness of what happened in Baramulla. Kashmiri Pandits and Sikhs were picked and brought to the Baramulla college lawns, killed. Women were raped all along, killed. Young women from our community jumped into wells and rivers, prepared to die. Krishna, Ganga is one of the rivers, Ki God Mein. There is a book called Har Ki Jeet by Shri Balraj Madok, a must to read. The idea behind was that Jinnah brought these Kabalis to Kashmir Valley, and he thought if he sends these raiders to Kashmir, local population will support, and it will be a cakewalk for him to get Kashmir in hand. It's on record that some of the logistics provided to Kabalis by the person called Chaudhry Fayazullah Waziri Wazarat of Baramulla, he provided them the support. And what happened in Baramulla would have not happened in case he would have not supported. It's also said that this guy, then after that, went somewhere else along with a big truck, lot of money, lot of loot. And Major Akbar Khan, his code name was that time Major Tariq, informed Pakistan that he was confident that within few days, Kashmir Valley will be easily in our hands. So when this was happening, so terrific, so tragic story, when you meet any Kashmiri Pandit, he may be, she may be, any part of the world will share stories of genocide starting from 1947. Those who could save that time some lives, they could travel, they walked to reach to Srinagar. In the meanwhile, Maharaja Hari Singh at this point of time asked India for help. And on 26th October 1947, Maharaja Hari Singh signed off instrument of accession in which Jammu and Kashmir becomes part of Republic of India. So when this happened, by this time, Kabalis started going towards Srinagar. And they reached a place called Charlatane. I remember that place. Charlatane is this place, and this is Baramulla Road, this is Srinagar, and this is Tangmarg. Here is a change of a history. One Muslim guy called Maqbool Sherwani was there. And Kabalis asked, where is Srinagar? So Srinagar was this side, Baramulla was this side, Tangmarg was this side. So Maqbool said, Srinagar is this side. So Kabalis moved from Baramulla towards Tangmarg, which was not actually Srinagar, because Srinagar was this side. So he saved Srinagar from the disaster. So Kabalis moved towards Tangmarg, Gulmarg Road, on the way to way from Kausa, Magum, Kanyahama, Waripura, Tarahama, Kunzar. This is where our Bakshi family was living in Tarahama. Sri Vedalal Bakshi, along with Aftab Ram Bakshi, well-known businessman of the province, based out of Tarahama. Bakshi family had planned one day in advance to move to Srinagar. They had hired 30 Tongas to run away with bag and baggage. But here, Mogdam is Sarpanch of the place, immediately informed Kabalis, and the Kabalis came to the place. And my grandfather was caught, and along with his cousin brother's son, just 22-year-old Shri Shamlalji. My grandfather was looted, and he has a lot of diamonds, gold around his waist, and he was asked to read Kalima, which he refused, and 20 bullets were pumped into his chest. And Shamlalji also at the same time. Shamlal's son, at that point of time, jumped out of window and he broke his leg, and lifelong he was having broken leg. Vedalal Bakshi was a very rich man of the province and a saintly human being. Even other community members, Muslims, respected him, because he was owner of many orchards, walnut bags, rice fields. So that is where the situation came, and where that grandfather was being killed. My father, who was only 16-year-old, and he was a classmate of Professor Kashinath Bhatt in Baramulla. And my mother was 14-year-old. They were at the top of the tower along with other family members, and they were watching. A son watching the father being killed with 20 bullets, and he can do nothing. And he had his sister, 8-year-old. We used to call her Jigri there, and she started crying. Someone put the hand on her mouth so that the crying stops. And will you believe this Jigri, the Bua of mine, lifelong, she could not speak. She was speaking like this. Whole life she could not speak, and she got married to a great army soldier, Sri Amarnath Bhatt. Now this is how the family got destroyed at that point of time. And when our father used to tell a story, he used to cry like a child. We could not tolerate his crying, and he left us early. He left us a stage when my mother was 41, he was only 46, and we were children. By the time this was happening, and 26th October, accession to India took place, and the Indian Army first focal point came to Shaltang, and Shaltang became the focal point where Indian Army killed 600 Kabalis and kept killing them on the way and pushing them back through the Baramulla route to Muzaffarabad. At that point of time, in case there would have not been some foreign country intervention, Indian Army was so powerful, they would have even got Gilgit at that point of time itself, which did not happen. And once they were pushing out the Kabalis back to Baramulla, these Kabalis met the same Sherwani Sahab at Baramulla, who had directed them a wrong road to Srinagar. And this Sherwani Sahab was put like this, with an electricity pole. His foreheads were nailed, his hands were nailed, and he was killed. Even now you can see this history in Baramulla, main town. You can see Sherwani Sahab's statue there. So this is an eyewitness of people who have been involved. And finally, all these Kashmiri Pandits, Sikhs, they finally walked, whosoever could save their lives. Many Kashmiri Pandits, many Sikhs got destroyed. Of course, major was Kashmiri Pandits. They were very less Sikh population, but they were. And they finally reached Kashmir. And in Srinagar, people like Janki Nath Sumbali, Shivnarayan Potedar, Kashyap Bandhu, Shamlal Sarabji helped the victims and created refugee camps. So what I am trying to share here is this mayhem has been continuous from 1947 and then 1989 exodus. So what I shared is the story of my father. But in case you now hear story of 89, which I am not going to touch, that is our generation's story when the complete exodus and genocide took place. And this Black Day of 22nd October, 1947 will always be remembered. And this at least 26th October, 1947, which is Accession Day for India, is always remembered. And we are here today because we are part of India, we are Indians, and as Kashmiri Pandit, between 1947 till 1989, there have been many other things which I am not talking. And I would like to hand over this back to our moderator, Jay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bakshiji. So to pick up the key points you said was that Pakistan planned this for quite some time, and then they on October 22nd they let the Kabalis, insurgents, come in to create to show the world that the locals were rebelling against the ruling monarch Hari Singh, and then they would come in to sort of save the day. Basically, that's what I get to understand from what you're saying, and that's the ploy that has gone on for quite some time, I guess. It's still ongoing today. So thank you, Bakshiji, for sharing your insights and your story. And it's chilling to hear what you and your family went through, and I'm sure many other families went through. The key fact was Baramulla, which had a population of 14,000, was left with hardly 1,000 or 2,000. So that comprised every color, creed, and every part of the society. The people, the attackers did not care for who was who, and just wanted their way. And it affected every part of the society. I think Baramulla has not yet recovered till today, I guess. So moving on, I would like to go to our next speaker, Shri Sushil Dhanukaji. So as DKG has briefed us on the facts related to this Black Day, could I ask you to elaborate on how things have been from then until now with regards to Kashmir? Have our neighbors stopped these attempts after a one-off, or are they ongoing? And has there been any difference in between that time till today? Dhanuka ji, over to you.
Okay. Namaskar. Sawadee Kap. And first of all, I would am happy to get this opportunity to give my views in this webinar among the so renowned and very intellectual people. And also I thank Jay to give my introduction to this panel. And before I start, I just know I said 1989, he just mentioned Bakshiji. I recall my memory. First time I went to Kashmir in 1989. And 1989, when we were leaving from Srinagar to Pahalgam, Gulmarg, everywhere we are finding that something is happening. And I remember once I coming from Gulmarg to Pahalgam in a taxi, and my taxi driver was a Kashmiri Muslim. I was talking with him casually what is happening in Kashmir. He says, "Saab Jannat ko Jannum mein bana denge ye Pakistani hamare." These are the words I still remember. And he used the word that, and being a Kashmiri Muslim himself, he told me, "Do you believe like that?" Bola, "Saab abhi dekhiye kya kya hota hai." And today that words coming true today. And the way we seeing from 1989 till today, this insurgency has not stopped. What Jay, you told me that I have to say what happened after this, what Mr. Bakshi has given the history. Yes, our neighbor has continuously been working on their mission to destabilize our country through the Kashmir. Since India gained its independence in 1947, but Bakshi have already told in detail from 47, it has waged many wars intermittently with Bharat. Let me give you some brief history of the wars. The first Indo-Pak war was mentioned by just DKG. It started October 22nd, 1947, followed by the war in 1965. Then we had the war of 1971, and third December to 16 December. That time the war was in the Bangladesh also. At the same time, Pakistan took the opportunity that Indian army is busy in the Bangladesh, and they attacked on our western border. But they were defeated. Then most of the time, Pakistan had to got a defeat from Indian army, which has always been strong on defend itself and never been an aggression, ever been being provoked. We never attacked the Pakistan, even though they provoked us so many times in so many ways. But our policy is to not to agree with. Our history said, Indian history, it never would attack any country. But they again and again they were having disturbed us with the insurgency. Then came the Kargil conflict in May 1999, which I think our generation and Jay generation also remembering the Kargil, and ended by July 99. Here, once again, India gained the supremacy to regain the position of Kargil, which was the toughest but the way military operation made Pakistan to run away. In addition to the war, there has been regular influx of terrorist gangs operating in Kashmir to destroy the peaceful valley regularly. This now, because of the social media has become active, I think the normal people, everybody is getting the information. And 1947, like Bakshi have told, information system was not that very efficient. So people didn't get the real what is happening in Kashmir. But today, everything is happening, we know. The same modus operandi of trying to destabilize a peaceful region has been going on since 1947. And with the modern information age, the world is slowly becoming aware of this and finally taking notice. Now, I think when I'm also traveling in the world, when we talk about the Kashmiris, the people know what Pakistan is doing, what atrocities they're doing, and they are training the terrorists in their occupied Kashmir and they're sending by on the border, which I think after Modi became the Prime Minister, the border is more secure, the more vigilance, and insurgency has reduced, and the people crossing the border has been controlled much more than before, when I should say that when the previous governments were there. The residents have also become wiser nowadays, and more information which may help to alleviate them of wrong propaganda being carried out. Actually, propaganda war, Pakistan is already defeated. Now, the India's propaganda is also, India is not propaganda, telling the fact to the people in the world, and they are agreeing what is the Kashmir and what Kashmiri people like. And after this 370 article is finished, in the normal Kashmiris are happy, which Baksis have also confirmed, and Nirjaji also will tell you. So this way, I think insurgency is still continuing, but it's going to be controlled, and we hope that one day the Kashmiris will feel the peace and live with the harmony. And I wish you that wish the Kashmiris all the best in the future. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dhanukaji, for your insight. So you have traveled as well, so it's not sort of second-hand information, it's your personal experiences that you have shared. Thank you so much for that. So I think we have fought 4 wars, as you mentioned, 1947, 1965, 1971, and 1999 being the latest, which was the Kargil War. And every war, it seems it's the same, that insurgents try to come into the country and then the Pak army follows. And the strategy still remains the same, so that they want deniability, which is, in this day and age, they cannot keep towing the same line. So thank you for that insight. Now I will ask Kunirja Sadhuji to share her views, because she is deeply connected with the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Could I call on you to provide insights on the loss of life and the planned destruction of the Kashmiri culture in Kashmir since 1947 till the Kashmir Pandit exodus in 1990? In what way was Article 370 and 35A beneficial for the state of J&K, or a detriment or beneficial? Either way, it can be both to the state of J&K and especially to the KP community. Nirjaji, over to you.
Thank you, Jyoti, and namaskar, hello, good morning, good evening to all the viewers who are watching us today. First of all, I'd like to thank Indian Diaspora in Bangkok for inviting us for this webinar, where we are trying to spread some awareness about the Blackday that Bakshiji mentioned and talked about at length. And Dhanukaji pretty much summarized it and gave us a clear picture of what happened afterwards. But that's not the end of it. Obviously, that was the beginning. Not even the beginning. Beginning has been, there for from 500 years past that. So since this part has already been dealt with, I'm going to talk something about the 1990 genocide. I would not like to call it just exodus. It was a planned genocide. It was ethnic cleansing, Kashmir especially, to gain access to the land and make it an Islamic country, Islamic state, by our rogue neighbor, Pakistan. So I'll start off with February 1986, actually, mostly homes and temples of minority community, Kashmiri Pandits especially. At the time, we did not recognize for what it really was. Even clearly a well thought out and engineered attack to shake and break the peace-loving and hardworking community. A lot of families moved out of Anantnag at that time as well, but they moved within the Kashmir Valley, leaving their homes, their herds, their homes that they had so lovingly built and cherished. For context, in the timeline, Mufti Muhammad Saeed was the chief minister of Jammu and Kashmir at that time. Late 1988 and early 89, there was a clear change in the thought process of a common Kashmiri, sorry to say belonging to the majority community. It was, of course, it was orchestrated by the rogue nation, driven by the rogue nation across the border. We could see youngsters huddled together in groups, exercising, playing cricket in the early morning hours, which was kind of very strange. But these were all planned. These gatherings were planning grounds for the mayhem that was created in 1990 or late 1989. The open threats, verbal, written, started happening. Posters, individual letters, phone calls by the area commander of a militant group would send chills down the spine. And this started happening in mid of 1989. The militant organizations sent out a directive for women, which I had never, as a young adult, never felt before. Wear a hijab or cover your head with a scarf. That was for us, the Hindus, Sikhs, everyone else. But mainly the Muslims were asked to cover their, wear a hijab, which was unheard of. Some people did wear, but it was not mandatory or nobody would dictate it. Something that as a young adult I had never done in my entire life till I was in Kashmir. These threats were not to be taken lightly. You could be subjected to an acid attack. It was posted on our walls. You could be even beheaded if you resisted. It was difficult to even go to college or university on your own. I mean, as a young adult or as a child, I had never been guarded or never had anybody escort me to my school or college. So I was on my own all the time. But this was the first time in '89 that my father had to take a 6-mile detour to drop me off and pick me up back from his work, from my university. So that's how much panic and how much chaos was caused. Verbal and written threats were very rampant, and gun-wielding youth at our doorstep, at my doorstep, my home, under the pretext of making a phone call from my landline, from our landline. It only added to our misery and sleepless nights in '89 and '90. September 13, 1989, when our first community leader was shot dead in his neighborhood, right in front of his family and his friends. Of course, that was a clear indication that this is what we are going to do if you don't leave this place. Subsequently, Justice Neelkant Ganju, a very prominent judge from the community, and journalist and lawyer P.N. Batsa, they were brutally killed and murdered. Women were kidnapped, raped, and killed. Not only killed, they were sawed into 2 halves. This is the most brutal, barbaric. These incidents, I just feel those chills and shivers even now just by talking about it. 1990 midnight, the whole valley of Kashmir, under the guidance of neighboring country again, the rogue nation that it is, came out on streets and unleashed terror for the Kashmiri Pandit community, Sikhs as well, but the main target was to push out Kashmiri Pandit community. There were announcements over loudspeakers for us to either unite with the terror gangs or get killed or just perish. So there was a verbiage they used, Raliv, Galiv, or Salib. It's very, very threatening and very derogatory, actually. It's something which only we can understand. The words are very, very hurtful. And that too, we were asked to leave their women behind. Kashmiri Pandit men could leave, but they had to leave their women behind for the pleasure of the masters. So it would be an understatement to say that to this date, this is the most gruesome, bone-chilling, and terrifying event in our lives. At least being a woman, this is how I feel. Around 1,800 plus KPs have been killed throughout this time, which includes Vandahama massacre in 1997, after the exodus. You have to imagine, this is not only about Kashmiri Pandit anymore. So each and every Kashmiri Pandit that tried to stay back it wasn't good for them either. So 1997, the Vandhana massacre happened. 1998, Sangrampura massacre happened. Navimar, 2003. And the most recent one, Ajay Panditaji, a Sarpanch in Anantnag, was killed on June 2020. This is the most recent one. So a clear message that, you know what, no matter what you do, each and every one of you are going to kill you. So, not to forget thousands of our army, CRPF, JNK police, Air Force personnel that have been killed brutally, and the loss of life that Kashmir was experiencing till last year before the application of Article 370. So, our aim at GKPD actually is to fight for the justice of these families who have lost their loved ones, get international bodies to recognize this as a genocide, because that's what we are constantly and continuously fighting for, reconstruct and restore our temples, our religious places, and last but not the least, to settle us back in the valley, of course, at our terms and conditions. The peace-loving, quiet, and hardworking community had no choice but to leave their homes and herds, everything that a family acquired over several years. This was our 7th exodus. Let me emphasize on that. This was not the first one. This was the 7th exodus of Kashmiri Pandits from the valley. Kashmiri Pandit, who was the aboriginal of the land of Rishi Kashyap and had a history of more than 5,000 years, became a refugee in his own country. He was given a 10 by 10 tent where his entire family was without water, without electricity, without a sewage facility. A teepee that used to own a home, a 4 or 5 storied home, was managing in the 10 by 10 feet camp. And those camps existed till recently. They were given a one-room settlement or something, but nothing that compared to what we have owned in Kashmir. Exiled in our own country, we were often mocked by our fellow Indians. I'm sorry to say, I shouldn't mention it, but these are our lived experiences, and we can never forget them. We were called cowards, bagodas. Just a few that are coming to my mind right now. None in the media of that day found our exodus genocide worthy of being a national news headline. Our tragedy received very scant attention in the print journalism and television. No one covered our community that took an entire population of Kashmiri Pandits from their humble lifestyles to a life of a pauper. Our parents had to struggle to stay positive in order to help us settle and get us started. All over again. I take this, I'm sorry, I get emotional with this. I do take this opportunity to thank each and every parent who have helped us to pull through this, bore it all, and at the same time did not sow any seeds of hatred in us. They did not coax us to pick up weapons. They did not ask us to retaliate. The only weapon, as per them, was education, settling down, making your life better, forgiving if we could. And that's what we have done. We have forgiven. We cannot forget, but we have forgiven. That's why we are moving on. We are moving on with a great might, with great strength. I hope and pray that abrogation of Article 370 and 35A will lead to peace and stability in the valley in a meaningful sense, so that those in our community who still long to and desire to go back and breathe in the land or die in the land. I would like to die. I would love to die in my own land that we call home. August 5, 2019 is a landmark event in the entire history of Jammu Kashmir and India, for that matter. Abrogation of Article 370, the temporary and transient provision in the Constitution that was carried around the neck for 72 years of independent India, has been extremely well received within the valley, within Jammu Kashmir, appreciated all over the globe, especially by the people in the valley that I should emphasize on, barring few that used and abused these to benefit themselves and their families. Ladakh and Jammu, under the garb of this temporary arrangement, always got sidelined and ignored. State subject laws were manipulated by these mighty ones in the valley. to suit their patriarchal and regressive arrangements. A woman marrying had to reapply for a state subject, even if she's marrying the local state subject. If she marries somebody outside of Jammu and Kashmir, she forfeits all her property, job, and everything. She loses all that. So this was all a facade that was created for 370, which was so temporary that I feel so happy and so proud that we could see it in our lifetime. Valmiki Samaj, which a lot of people don't know about it, could only get a sanitary worker's job. Even if they are master's degree holders, they are engineers, or they have PhDs, they could not get a good government job, which was a shame, not only on the state of Jammu and Kashmir, but whole of India. So a false rhetoric that was created even after the abrogation of Article 370 and was created in the West by the very same rogue nation, again, misguiding and spreading propaganda against India. I'm really grateful to the Indian diaspora here who have constantly fought this agenda and corrected and educated the masses here. So proud to have seen this day actually, which seemed like a distant dream. Our meeting with Prime Minister Modi ji last year in Houston was historic and reiterated our faith in him and his dream of one nation, one flag, and one constitution. And the historic decision today that any Indian can go and settle down and buy land in Jammu and Kashmir, and there is nobody who was going to stop that. So on behalf of my entire GKPD team, I wish our motherland, India, prosperity, and our Reshwar, that is Kashmir, good times ahead. See you soon. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I took a little longer, because this is something which is very close to our heart and lived experiences. It's very difficult to cut it short. Thank you so much, Aji, and everybody else.
Thank you, Nirjaji. It is something like Bakshiji's point, something that you have gone through and your families have gone through, which is quite chilling to hear. I'm a little speechless at this point of time to hear the stories. Growing up in India, or this did not come in the news as much as it could have, but I do believe that this October 22nd, 1947, put the seed of corruption in a beautiful paradise, which went and created these issues going forward and really polluted the mindset of the people there, which really led to this thing in 1990s and later. So, but I do believe that we are coming back on the right track now, right? Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nirjaji, again.
Thank you.
So I'll bring in Nerulaji. So can you please share with us, the rest of India and the world, your thoughts on Article 370, 35A, both pre and post abrogation? Just to let the viewers know, I was surprised to know that Kashmir at one point from 1820s was under the Sikh Empire under Raja Ranjit Singh, and then was given to Dogra dynasty by Raja Ranjit Singh to manage Jammu and Kashmir, which they had bought from the British Empire. And so the Sikh community has always been very close to Kashmir. And I would love to bring in Dr. Kun In Narula, again, a stalwart of the Sikh community, to share his views on Article 370 and 35A. Over to you, Dr.
Thank you for the invitation. And you are right. You know, it's Maharaja Ranjit Singh who ruled the valley. And basically, it was never an Islamic land. It has always been a Hindu land, a Sikh land, you know, the land of the plenty. But unfortunately, events of the world changed the whole thing. So let me perhaps bring you back before I talk about the article. You see, after the partition in 1947, there are some statistics, very alarming. Minorities in Pakistan reduced from 23% down to 3%. Now that is very alarming, meaning something wrong is going on in their country. Now, whereas in India, minorities increased from 10% to 14%. And I'm not only talking about demographic, I'm talking about equal opportunities and fairness that India has accorded all the minorities. They have become president here in India, parliament members, successful civil servants, and also businessmen. And that is India. So Pakistan and the terrorists there, I feel, have a logical mind to reduce minorities. Systematically, it's all planned, it's all premeditated. In 1947, when Kashmir was accorded a special status, simply to curb and stop the violence that happened during that time. However, terrorist-backed neighboring country, Pakistan, backed by Pakistan, has systematically planned to reduce minority population and rights to equality through violence and extreme intimidation. They do it all the time in their own country, and they want to export that to also the Kashmir, to the valley. So they went all out with genocides and ethnic cleansing, where 42,000 people were killed and many thousands of Kashmiri Pandits, Sikhs and others left the valley for their safety. So on the 5th August 2019, this temporary article was amended, abrogated, to the liking and appreciation of all Indians and others in the world. Prime Minister Modi had the courage to step in and globally declared an amendment to this article 370 and 35A. A part of, they wanted to bring Kashmir to be a part and under the Indian Constitution with no special status, meaning women have equal rights, meaning everyone has right to mandatory education, meaning child rights are honored. This is the reason why when Prime Minister Modi came to Thailand under the event of Sawadi Modi in November 2019, the whole stadium was up giving Prime Minister Modi a standing ovation when he spoke. Jante ho, kya kiya hai humne? 370 or 35 ko khatam kar diya hai. So Prime Minister Modi decided to solve the problem, not manage the problem. He solved the problem. He had the courage to go on to deal and solve the problem. So if I may, congratulations, Prime Minister Modi, and congratulations, India. You have taken the right step, move forward. Now we need to, as a team, everyone in the world have to support Prime Minister Modi to make it happen for all Indian and especially Kashmiri Pandits who have been suffering, and the Sikhs also, of course. Thank you, and I rest my case here now.
Thank you, Inji, for that, for the important statistics, which sometimes in the modern day, with too much data, we do tend to forget about the facts and the numbers that have been quite shocking, actually, to really say. And since Modi ji took that effort on August 5th to 1990 to get the Article 370 removed, which was, I think, one of the first steps to correct the historical wrong committed on this Black Day of October 22nd, 1947. I think the prospects are looking better. So thank you so much for that insight. And I would like to bring in Nick, as he's popularly known, Kundikon Sajdev. He is, like I said, a youth who's involved with all the, bringing the youth involved in the Indian and Thai community here. So for me, the question I have for him is, after hearing about the Black Day events and the ensuing turmoil, I would like to know your thoughts on Kashmir and what is the way forward for Kashmir. What would be the best way to heal a once proud land, a paradise lost, how we can make it into a paradise and like it was popularly known as the crown of India. How can we make this crown shine again? So Nikon, over to you. Nick, you need to unmute, yeah.
Hi,
Yeah.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good to go.
All right. Namaste, Swadikap, Sat Shri Akal, Salam, and a very good evening to everyone. My name is Nikon Sajdev. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. DK Bakshi for inviting me to become one of the panelists in this webinar of October 22nd, Black Day, and its significance to India and Kashmir. A little background about myself. I'm a third generation Indian living in Thailand. All my life, I was always given the impression that it was impossible to travel to Kashmir because of all the safety regulations and all the permits that are needed for foreigners. Foreigners cannot enter Kashmir. You need special permits here and there. My dad, actually an Indian, holding an Indian passport, went there in the 1970s with his friends. And he always used to tell us beautiful stories about the lake and how they stayed in the lake house and uh, how they traveled around going to this place, that place. But we were never given that opportunity. Like my friend Jay just mentioned, we both were very involved in welcoming PM Modi to Thailand last year for the Sawadi Modi event. And after joining this webinar, I actually did a little research and was very surprised to find that the history of Kashmir was not what I thought it was. First of all, I didn't know that Kashmir was given its independence on October 26th. I always thought that Kashmir came part of the deal. But after in studying about this event, I came to know that actually October 27th was actually a very black day for Kashmir and for India itself. And I really feel bad that it actually happened. But thank you to PM Modi ji, who has evoked 370 and 35A. I traveled to Kashmir in 2016 with my family, and we went to a lot of beautiful places. I've traveled a lot in my lifetime, and I must say that Kashmir was one of the most beautiful places that I've been to. Gulmarg, especially the Khyber Pass, amazing. And I feel that the future, by invoking 370 and 35A, it should bring back a lot of investment into India, into Kashmir especially. A lot of foreigners, the old families of the Kashmiri Pandits or the Sikh families that have left and want to go back, invest in that area, bring back prosperity, bring back tourism. I know a lot of Thai people who are interested in going to Ladakh for bike rides after seeing all the movies. They want to travel. They feel that, first of all, it's value for money. India is value for money. It's more beautiful than many European countries that I've been to. The people are friendly. The kava tea is the tastiest over there in the winter, especially in any weather. The kava tea is the best. The food, I think one of the best rajmas in the world that I've had was in Srinagar itself. And I feel that now the future of Kashmir is going to be very bright, very, very prosper. All it's going to have a multicultural society where everyone's going to come back. A lot of investment will come back. If it opens up now with all the safety there that has been brought on because of this, the Article 370 being invoked and sorry, being revoked, we will be seeing a lot of new tourism, a new prosperity that is going to come to Switzerland and to Kashmir. And I'm sure that Kashmir will become the crown of India very, very soon with all its beauty over there. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jay. Back to you.
Thank you, Nick, for this wonderful take on what the way forward is for Kashmir. I do believe that definitely there is a lot of. I've also personally had the privilege of traveling to Kashmir in the last 10 years. Maybe I've been there 2, 3 times, which Bakshi ji and Reja ji have told me they are pretty envious about. But I did have the privilege, and it's a beautiful place. It's really beautiful, and there is definitely an uptick in the positive sentiment there. And I was just informed today by Nirja ji that there is a positive news by the Indian government, which allows the Indian nationals, in true terms, Kashmir is integrated into India, as all Indian nationals can now exercise their fundamental rights in Kashmir and buy the property, go and invest, truly make that area as part of India and take it forward. So I do believe that your point of tourism and investment and prosperity coming in will definitely be there. And my personally tracking, I've observed that a lot of investment by the Indian government has also gone into Kashmir, both for border security as well as to improve the lives of the people living there. So there are new highways, new tunnels, new roadways, everything coming in, which I think is the right step to bring Kashmir up to today. So it has been a very enlightening and educating session for me personally, and I'm sure for the audience as well. We do believe that there are quite a few participants on Facebook. If I'm not mistaken, about 60, 70 participants are there. People are coming and going in, same way on the webinar. We apologize if the participants had some problems in joining the webinar, but we do hope that you will get the videos on the Facebook and will be able to go through this session at your own convenience later on. So there are a few questions that have come up. One of the questions that I'm taking from the audience right now is from Mr. Basant Kumar Dugar. Can we still go to international court against West Pakistan? Means there's only one Pakistan. The East Pakistan has taken independence and has prospered more than the original Pakistan. So I do believe that there's no point of West Pakistan, only Pakistan. So I leave it to Nirja ji and Bakshi ji to just comment on this quickly. The question is, can we take the plight of Kashmir and the Kashmiri Pandits to international court?
Bakshi ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Basanji, Sawadikap. In fact, when you look at genocide of Kashmiri Pandits, that's what global Kashmiri Pandit diaspora has been propagating around the world. And we are actually looking at, even United Nations looking at us and declaring this entire thing as genocide. And then, of course, once United Nations declare this as genocide, we can certainly go to the court for sure. So genocide has to be declared by United Nations us and by the Indian government.
Thank you, DKG, for answering that question. I have a personal question, which I'm just going to put it out here. It just came to my mind. I am educated in India, living in Thailand now, but my basic education was in India. To me, it's surprising, why is October 22nd and the events percolating to it not really taught in the Indian curriculum or brought up to this level? You know, I've studied in an international school in Thailand, and international schools, they talk about American history and in great detail, even if they had the conflicts and the revolution and but somehow we talk about the traced with destiny of Jawaharlal Nehru, but after that it's pretty much a blank page. You know, means why does not this October 22nd 1947, a really black day, where, as per some of the experts, 60,000 lives were lost in those 6 days, or 600,000 lives. So the numbers vary from 40,000 to 600,000. So why is this not part of the Indian education system, not making people aware that this was what has happened and taken up? I can. This is open to all the panelists, whoever would like to take this up.
Well, up to that, I would say there's a lot that doesn't exist in history books of schools in India. All you can remember is Aurangzeb and Akbar and Babur and all that kind of stuff that I personally have studied when I was in school. So there's a lot of history in Indian history, like the history that belongs to India, that has been completely shadowed. I don't know why these historians felt it is more important to highlight a Babur or an Akbar or Aurangzeb and not Shivaji Maharaj, not this genocide, not even 1990 genocide. Where do you see it? Do you see it in any of the books that are being taught to students currently in schools? Not at all. Not even a mention. It's only, I think it's only last few years, like 4 or 5 years, I would say, to be very precise, that with social media and a little bit of us, like Kashmiri Pandits, who started being vocal about these happenings, because it takes a generation, after partition. Imagine how one generation kind of perished with that partition happening. It happened to us also. So it took us 25 years to settle down again, start from a scratch, build our lives. And those 25 years, I'm so happy and so proud of the community that we've done exceptionally well. We have not picked a gun. We have not retaliated. We have not shot anybody. We don't spread hatred around. All we are trying to do is educate. All we are trying to do is educate the masses in India and around the world, just to change this course of history. Why are these things not being taught in schools? This is a fight. All Indians should fight for it. It's not a Kashmiri Pandit who has to take this fight forward. It's all collectively, all Indians have to take this fight forward and write letters to the Prime Minister, to the Home Minister, to the Education Minister. Why our history books have no mention of, as you said, what you mentioned, what Bakshi ji mentioned, what Dhanuka ji mentioned, everybody here. Why are those not part of the curriculum? Why are those not being taught to those students? What are they trying to cover up? It was a cover-up. Everything that has happened in Kashmir has been covered up very diligently, and a lot of money has been pumped into Kashmir, ignoring the other two parts. And those people, those 4 or 5 families in Kashmir that became masters of the land, they've completely ruined the valley, ruined Jammu Kashmir. And India now needs, because it's one nation, one flag, one constitution now, everybody needs to take this ownership and change this course, change this rhetoric, change this verbiage, change this history. We have to all collectively take it. And anybody who is willing to take up this cause, I'm here to support you. We can all collectively do this. So I don't know why it has happened. I mean, I can say the previous governments are responsible, but I cannot go on talking about the same things over and over again. What are we doing now? What have we done in past 10 years? At least we have been, as Kashmiri Pandits, we have been coming in the forefront and relating and telling our stories and trying to coach, teach, educate masses what has happened. And that's how we know about it. I don't think most of you even knew what was happening in Kashmir, what happened in Kashmir. So this is the course we have to change. I don't know if I have been able to answer the question, because I myself don't know the answer. This is what I know, what has happened.
Thank you, Nirja ji. I just got another question from a youth on a different platform. I would like to, he has pointed to the fact that there is a lot of news articles coming out recently in the Indian news media that the current government is changing the history books to make the youth more nationalist. What's your take on this? I think the representation of the real facts is being termed as making it more nationalist. So I would ask Dhanuka ji to maybe comment, or Narula ji to please put some light on this. Do you believe that changing the history books is creating more nationalism by the current government, or what is the way forward with regards to educating the youth?
Yes, just my thoughts on this. It's unfortunate that our kids are not learning or knowing what went on in 1947 and then again in 1990. I don't think it would create more violence or hatred. Knowing is very important, because once you educate children, you also tell them that, please, my child, this is what happened. We don't want history to repeat itself. We want everyone to move forward with that mentality, with the mindset that peace and peace alone will prevail, and that everything can be settled down and negotiated over the table. Now, unfortunately, many may not agree with what I'm saying. Many would say, well, if you want peace, you must be ready for war. Don't go to war, be ready for war, and maybe there would be peace. But learning history is very important. I don't think we should shy away from the truth that happened in the past, so that we will not commit the same mistake again.
To his point, I would like to add, sorry, Bakshi, just to his point, when he says educate the masses, and people who would say that, oh, with peace comes war. Well, they don't know what war is. That's what we are trying to educate them. We've seen those wars. 65, 71, 89, throughout those years, we've seen the war. The war doesn't mean only cross-fighting across borders. We've seen those wars, and I wish and pray nobody gets to see that. That's what we need to educate and caution people about, that things can happen. And one,
I think Nirja ji has got stuck. So Bakshi ji, why don't you take up until Nirja ji is having video issues right now?
Yeah, in fact, I would like to add, when we are talking about educating the youth about the real history, and that's the fact of life. There are already some changes happening in the country today. I want to tell you the fact of life is that there are families. There was a business plan for families. To run the country and to run the Kashmir is like running families. This is the first time since 2014, the business plan people have been out. And in fact, in Kashmir also, all of us know a couple of families to control. So when there were people in the central as well as in the state who had a business plan, family plan, they never bothered about it, and they did not give the right education to the future generations. But today, the country is led by a highly effective democratic process, which is allowing the real history to come in. So to be nationalist, I am a proud Indian. Why not? I am a proud American. Everybody, I am a proud Thai. So I am a proud Indian. These children, the future generations, have to have that kind of, education. And it's Modi hai to mumkin hai.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also strongly feel that Indian history has to be rewritten. What happened in 1947 when the Congress government came, they gave the historians, communist historians were given the responsibility of writing Indian history. And then in that communist thinking, they write the history of India, where the history starts from Mughal Empire. They forgot about the Gupta dynasty, our Chol dynasty, the dynasty which ruled up to the Indonesia and Cambodia. They all be forgotten. There's no Angkor Wat mentioned in our history. There is no Chol they were mentioned in the. We start with the Babar and end with Bahadur Shah Jafar. This was because of the history was written by communists, and the Romila Thapar, Ramchandra Guha, these are all known communist people. Now this is a time where our kids should know about Kashmir. People don't know. That, like Bakshi are saying, which curriculum book has meant this story? Where is the story that Kashmiri Pandits, today Kashmiri Pandits are living in the tents, but nobody knows. Normal people don't know. So this, I strongly feel the government of India today take the immediate step to rewrite the story. Not the rewrite mean not the false, is a true. They should bring the fact on the page, and then our kids should know. So next generation, at least we know what is our history, where the Maharana Pratap, what Maharana Pratap did, what Prithviraj Chauhan did. People do not know today. And Kashmir issue, Kashmir, like because said that it was never in Narullaji said, never a Muslim country. It was always ruled by Hindus and Sikhs. But today, if my grandson, he will say, yeah, Kashmir is a Muslim state. So this has to be read. I strongly feel that the steps should be taken, and the government of India should rewrite the history. Thank you.
I will add my 2 cents onto this, the same question. I believe that there is a misunderstanding between national pride and nationalism. A nation needs to have pride in itself so that its citizens can believe in it and prosper together. If we do not believe in ourselves as a nation, then the nation does not prosper. So if we have to write our history books to highlight all the events, we are not saying, I do believe that my panelists and my colleagues here will agree with me when I say this, that we are not trying to discount the Mughal Empire. We are just saying, please reflect all the empires that were there, right? From the Maurya dynasty, the Chandragupts, the Mughals, it was surprising for me to find out that when Babur invaded for the first time, they were destroyed so badly that it took them another 150 years before they could invade India again. So all of this history is being lost, and it needs to be brought in to tell our youth that you are part of a proud nation. The last 300 years does not define you. It does not define your identity. So it is important to educate. So please do not take the rewriting of history as a action to nationalize. Nationalism does not mean that when we are talking about Hinduism, which has been our history, that it is taking away from the national identity. So that would be my point. So
Excellent.
Coming up to the next question is that it is again a very open-ended question that can be taken up with by any of the persons, Nirjaji and everyone, that when we talk about this Black Day and the history till now, who do you think is really responsible for it? The fault lies with us to some extent, that we did not have enough information. But who does the fault really lie with? And how can we go about ensuring that this does not occur in the future again? So
Okay.
maybe I start with Inji, please.
Yeah. I'll just give my thoughts on it. I think, to be fair, our politicians have been quite corrupt, and they are partially responsible for what is happening in Kashmir. In 1947, when Kashmir was accorded a special status, again, that was a good intention to stop all the violence at that point in time. But since then, nobody had the guts or the courage to revoke Article 370, which is a big mistake. Why should J and K be accorded a special status all the time? It doesn't make sense. Now, on the other side, when I say our politicians are also partially responsible, I would also say that our neighboring country also are taking advantage of the situation, because our politicians are corrupt, sad to say, but it's also the truth. And they have this expansionist policy with ethnic cleansing. So they come in full forces in order to capture Kashmir, which is sad. So basically, I would say, never mind them, we cannot control them, but at least we can control our politician. Our politician can set their mind, and then perhaps a rehabilitation of their attitude would go a long way, which is happening. So really, thanks to Prime Minister Modi and his team to make this happen.
Can I add on?
Yeah, DKG, please go ahead.
Yeah. In fact, Kunin has really given a good overview on this, and that is a fact of life. As I was mentioning earlier, the business plan families to run the country is all political. Look at today's date. Every day there's a history being created. And 27th October 2020 will be written a historical day in India when this land law bill has been passed. Now look at this great prime minister of the country, what he has done. Anyone can buy land in Kashmir and can live and can do business. Growth and prosperity. Every Kashmiri today, I want to tell you, when you look at Kashmir today, any community, they're so happy, they're so excited because they want growth, prosperity of their future generations. They don't want guns there. Even the Muslims do not want guns there today. They are happy to have the flag. You must have seen last couple of days, flags of India running into Kashmir Valley by all Muslims. And this prosperity of this land law will invite people around the country to go invest, work, live. And even the Indian diaspora sitting in different parts of the world. Gurmukh Singh Ji is always telling me, Bakshi Sahab, I have to have business in Kashmir. Not today, he told Sushma Ji also. He said, one day it will come. So there are many Thai Indian businessmen who would like to go to Kashmir. And just few days back, I have launched Global Kashmiri Pandit Business Foundation. And this is where I will be helping those Indians who would like to invest, bring FDI to Kashmir Valley. We will do that. I'm going to meet the governor of J&K in next 8 to 10 days time, and we are ready to launch it. So growth, prosperity will make all these politicians happy. There are some, Jay, you don't know, there are some families, a few days back, there's somebody talking about Gupkar. They can't digest this 370 is gone. They can't digest today's bill. I want to give you a story of a film actor. I don't want to name a film actor, any film actor. In one movie, he is a hero. In another movie, he is a villain. In another movie, he is a joker. There's a guy who in Kashmir will talk about jihad and even talk about, China will solve the problem of Kashmir. Okay? China is not able to solve their own people. They are not taking care of their own Muslims. And this guy is talking about China will solve. And when he reached Delhi, he sings the song of Bhajan of Rama, and he is Indian. And when he is in London, he is in a bar with beautiful ladies and I don't know what. So these jokers who are moving around and making a mockery of the thing, nobody is with them. I won't tell you, Kunjay and the team, nobody is with them. They are their own self-interest. So the politicians of such kind who were running business models are gone. It will not get repeated. And laws have been made. 370 is made. 5th August 2020. Law bill today is 27th October 2020. They can't do anything now. Yes, we have to be careful with the neighbor. Neighbor is our top, but don't worry. We are so strong.
You will win.
We are so strong today. We have some part of our Kashmir in that part of the world. We need that Kashmir back soon. That is Indian army today, which we are looking at. Forget Kashmir is going to be prosperous. Forget that Kashmir is going to be prosperous. Bring in FDIs, and all the communities together. Because now there's no question. Sushil ji, Jai Sarab ji, Dhanuka ji, and Gurmukh Singh ji or In ji can invest there into Kashmir. I can invest. Everybody can invest.
Yes.
So the Kashmiri born, it's all. So within next few years, these jokers will be around. Jokers days are gone. Yes, borders will seal, but we have a strong army to take care. Don't worry. It will not get repeated now. I am sure it will not get repeated now.
Thank you, Ji. So, Dhanuka ji, would you like to add a few words here? Or?
No. What he is saying is a very fact, and then I hope everything. And today the date is really historical, And when I was in last 2016 in Kashmir, my last trip, everybody was hoping that, can buy that, only can lease, you can lease the land, or you can rent the hotel, or rent the shop, cannot buy. Today is a golden day. Today anybody can go, most welcome. And this is the way that our country is one. We are one. And no JNK, no special status, and they are enjoying it. What Bakshi Saab told is 100% correct. The normal Kashmiri who's a taxi driver, who's an apple grower, who's a saffron grower, they are happy. They have suffered a lot. So now they are realizing that how much they've suffered. And one day I hope now the last that all the Kashmiri Pandit, my brothers and sisters, will go back and live in their own Kashmir and enjoy the beauty of Kashmir. Beauty of Jannat yahi hai, Jannat yahi hai, Jannat yahi hai.
I feel so envious of all of you, actually. All of you mentioned that you've been to Kashmir in 2016. Nikonji mentioned he went some recently. JG mentioned about his visit. It's not really feeling envious. It's like something like, okay, so is it just me that is not being able to go? What stops me? What is the hesitation? But yes, this is what it was. We will go back, no matter where we settle down. It's our home. Nobody should even ask that question. I don't know if I have been asked that question several times, actually, that now that 370 is gone, would you like to? Sorry,
let me sort of cut you off there, because I have the exact same question here for both you and DKG, which basically says that since the Article 370 has been removed and you had to live, what was your experience after leaving your herd, homes, and native habitat? And now, since Article 370 has gone out, would you like to go back, and would you like to be part of that community
That's
again?
the question that I was actually talking about.
That's
Not
why I
only
said
question.
I
That's
have
what
that
I
question. So I want the gentleman to feel that his question has been asked.
Oh, okay. No, the fact that somebody asked that question, I appreciate it. But I mean, apne ghar jana, is that a? I just feel it just kind of gives me some kind of uneasy feeling. But yes, of course, why not? It's my home. Anytime, every time, whenever I feel. It shouldn't be a condition. There shouldn't be a condition for me or any of my Kashmiri Pandit brothers and sisters to go home. We should be able to go like any other Indian. Go back to our homes, go back to our places. We have a home. I have a home in Kashmir that was burned down in 96. The structure is still there, but guess what? Last year, we got a court notice saying that you have no rights over this property because this has been sold fraudulently by somebody to somebody. So we are fighting a case for our own home. Imagine that. And this happened just before the abrogation of Article 370. And we have the case in court, but we forgot about that because the 370 happened and everything kind of changed for us. It didn't matter what has happened to our home. We were so excited and so thrilled to know that, something like this has happened in our lifetimes. I wish this had happened a year before when my father expected it. He passed away just in the hope that Modi ji is going to do something like that. I know his Atma will be at peace now, but again, why not? It's my home. I should have the right, and it should be my wish, my time. Whenever I feel like going back, I should be able to go. There should be no condition. There should be no if and but for that. So yes, of course.
Bakshiji, please, last few words on that.
That every Kashmiri Pandit has a story to share.
Yeah.
Jai and all others, Madams, and webinars, every Kashmiri Pandit. So I talk about Bakshi family, everybody has a story in distinct tribe. निर्शाशी रोई नहीं, तो ज़्यादा रोती है, ऐसे बहुत रोते हैं वेबिनारों पे, क्योंकि जिनके अपने माँ बाप की हत्या की गई है, you can hear so many stories. So while everybody has a story to tell, going back to Kashmir is certainly possible, but with that safety, security, And with the plan, our delegation, Global Kashmir Pandit Diaspora, met, of course, Modi ji in Thailand as well as Houston and other places, but met Amit Shah ji last year, 19 January, this year, just before COVID. And as per that plan, what was submitted by Dr. Cole along with the team of Global, we will certainly like to go back. And I am welcoming everybody to be there. We will like to go back. कौन नहीं जाएगा अपने कश्मीर में? कश्मीर
बहुत
जाना
बहुत
है. And we must
Actually, it's not.
on our conditions, which has been laid down in a memorandum of understanding, which is there's a complete MOU submitted by Dr. Surendra Kaul, who is our chief volunteer of Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora, along with a team of people from the community. As per that.
Thank you, DKG. So I'll pass that to Nikon. Nikon, yeah, please. Some words.
Actually, Dr. DK, I understand the feeling of wanting to go back to your own place, to your own home. And I tell you, last year, India government, they did a road show in Thailand, trying to advertise about all the touristic places in India. And one of the places that they were trying to promote was Ladakh. And the road show was in Queen Sirikit over here. And the booth was crowded. The amount of Thai people that are interested in traveling, Thai people of Thai origin to Kashmir, trust me, very soon with all these new laws and the OCIs can invest and the local Indians can invest over there, Kashmir is going to be on top of the world again. It's going to be the new Switzerland of Asia.
Okay. So thank you all the panelists for your time and taking the time out to educate us on this. We started with a dark event, Black Day of October 22nd, 1947, but we are ending on a bright note of a prosperous India, a prosperous Kashmir. And just a few anecdotes from my side before I pass on to Indrajit Narula ji to give the vote of thanks. Nirja ji, during our discussion in the last few days, had mentioned that the amount of violence, stone pelting, or civilian death after Article 370 was abrogated is zero, which is surprising. That means the people, the whole story that has been spun for so long that the people do not want to be part of India is wrong, because they are happy to be part of India. And to all the audience, when we say Kashmir, we are talking about the entire region comprising of Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, Leh, and this region is very diverse, ethnically very diverse. Ladakh is predominantly Buddhist, Jammu is predominantly the Hindu, Kashmir was predominantly Hindu, and today it's still having a sizable population of this thing. So this area is very ethnically diverse and has had a very rich culture, right? Like Bakshiji told me yesterday, the name Kashmir comes from Rishi Kashyap. So it has been there for 5,000 years, and we need to understand that it is a beautiful country, beautiful region of our India, and we cannot allow one black day of history to torture us for going forward. We should all learn from that event, and I would just tell all the audience members to educate their children, their colleagues, their family members about this October 22nd Black Day, and ensure that we do not allow anybody the power to commit these atrocities on our motherland in any way. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I think first of all, we need to thank Jay Sharaf, who has moderated the session extremely well. He has done just a wonderful job, I mean, he began with telling us how he's going to take us through the session, and going through the session was very smooth. He is almost like a captain, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hats off to you, sir. Now, and then came along Dr. D.K. Bakshi, who gave us a brief account of Kashmir from 1947 onwards to now. And a lot of a lot of the time, and I was moved also by his very emotional accounts of what happened to his family. And really seeing all this, you can only come up with one thing, that the genocide was the ugliest that has ever been seen. But surprisingly, a lot of it is not talked about or not even known to us Indians. So that is a sad part. Anyway, we have to move forward now that Prime Minister Modi has recognized it, and he has abrogated Article 370, thanks to him. Then then came on Dhanukaji, brilliant speaker. Once again, he reminded us that the insurgency is still going on. Our neighboring country is trying to destabilize us. And there has been 4 wars that we have fought with our neighbors. If possible, if I may recommend, let us also make Pakistan a part of India. It was India, if possible. And
I think
again,
that's a different
the
kind of
political will to do it. Why not? And Dhanukaji, once again, thank you for your insight. It was brilliantly done and wonderful, wonderful. Then came Nirjaji, Sadhu, and her accounts of what she went through, what she saw, brought a lot of fear in a lot of people during that time. But she is very courageous in her intention to be going back. I don't know, many people might be so afraid of not even wanting to go back. That fear factor can be at the subconscious level. But once again, Nirjaji, thank you for your account.
Thank you
Very
for the opportunity.
emotional. And, I like to hear you again in details whenever we meet in person in New Jersey, perhaps, when the skies open up. And by the way, please stay safe and stay home. I know
Thank you so much.
Yes. Now, and then we go on to myself. What I talk about is I gave the statistic that our neighboring country has reduced their minorities to less than 3%, whereas in India, we respect and give equal rights to minorities. And because of this, I can understand why they try to come to Kashmir and drive out all the minorities, even though it does not belong to them. And perhaps maybe we can take them to the world court, to the world judge. Perhaps let us see the possibility, because what they have done is maybe even worse than what they have done in Germany. Hitler, that genocide. This is terrible. It's terrible. That's all I can say. And perhaps maybe we can do something about it. Kunik, your accounts of how you have always heard that it's not easy to go to Kashmir. Eventually you landed there and you loved the place, and you came back and promoted Kashmir, and you went to see a lot of the you can say travel events in Thailand, and you see a lot of the people who are interested to go to Kashmir. Thanks to you, you are the ambassador, so that Kashmir will grow. But very importantly, growth, prosperity, security are the 3 key main areas. And we hope, and we look forward to these 3 happening. Now, what I can see happening in Kashmir at the moment is, I understand that the Indian government has spent a lot of money in Kashmir. In fact, per capita spending is 4 times more than other parts of India. And yet you see very limited progress. Perhaps with time, good things will happen. So that's the summary. And then there are a few questions that were asked by the audience, and we all responded very well. And Dr. Bakshi has also said that we all will go back to Kashmir. And Nirjaji has also said that we can buy land there now. So we can go and invest there. We can go there and be peaceful. God bless all of us. Thank you once again. And Jay, You have done a wonderful job moderating the session. I love the way you do it. Thank you. Thank you.
so much.
Thank you, and Jai Hind
Thank you.
to all.
And
Jai
thank you to all the panelists also.
And Kunjay,
Jai Hind.
I want to tell you frankly, we never worked like this so many years. You really made it so beautiful, and you studied and you researched a lot. A big round of applause for Kunjay.
Thank you so much for everybody.
इतने सालों में आपका global talent पता नहीं चला मेरे को. You are such a great businessman, but this one really appreciable. And
I believe that every
We all
Indian
thank
is
you.
a,
और एक लास्ट में क्या नीरजा जी जब बोल रही थी, जो वेदना उनके चेहरे पे थी वही पूरी कहानी अपने आप में बता रही थी. उनको बोलने की जरूरत भी नहीं थी, आपका चेहरा ही सब कुछ बता रहा था. ये मैं नोट कर रहा था. और बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. और
Thank you so much for the
जय को
opportunity.
फिर से एक बार बहुत बहुत
on this
धन्यवाद जय
account,
को.
Nick, very young,
everyone.
bright guy, and Tanuka ji and Narula. Thank you very much.
and Dr. Bakshi, on this account, let us try to change so that we tell history to our children. You know, history has to be telling them the truth
Yes.
and telling them to do the right thing.
Yes.
So perhaps maybe Dr. Bakshi can drive this also, Dr.
Yeah.
Bakshi.
Sure. We hope so.
Yes.
I would ask all the panelists to share the Facebook link again, where I think the video will be there for some time for the people to view, and hopefully the view counts can go up and we can get people to educate themselves and others around them. Thank you so much, everybody.
Brilliant.
Thank you and namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all the
Namaskar.
attendees
Have a great
for
evening.
your
Nikon,
time.
bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Danuka ji, take care. Namaste ji.
Thank you.
बच्ची साहब नमस्कार. निजा जी नमस्ते.
Namaskar ji. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
जेपी धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद.